I am really, really delighted to welcome back onto the Live, Love, Learn podcast the amazing Jim Gale from Food Forest Abundance. And we're going to see lots of your food today. Now, Jim has been a guest on my podcast a month ago. I will put the link below to the first video we did because for those of you that haven't seen that, it's really important to go back and watch that because we cover a lot of the basic principles about what a food forest is, what permaculture is. So for those of you that haven't watched that, please do watch that interview after this because it will really click into place for you and I don't want to repeat it all. But Jim, first of all, welcome back. And you have been very, very busy with your projects, haven't you?
Yes, we are changing the world, and I mean that sincerely. It's kind of loud. There's a helicopter flying over, but we have the solution to all of the world's biggest problems. When we take the poisons out of our lives and of our land, and we grow food instead of lawns, when we do that one thing at scale, we solve deforestation and mass extinction. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease for our families goes away. We end world hunger and we end tyranny when we have mass adoption. So to everybody listening, it's time to turn your landscape into life.
Yeah, I love it. And before we really sort of launch into some of the nitty gritty, one thing I've heard you talk about that's really close to my heart on some of the other interviews that you've been doing is the fear mindset. So many people are caught in a fear mindset at the moment, and I completely get why. I'm not pretending I don't go there at times because I certainly do. And the fear of not being able to access clean food, clean water, to feed your family, to be able to afford to feed your family two-legged and four-legged at this, it's really real, isn't it, Jim? I mean, talk us
through real.
How your project addresses that.
Yeah. Okay, fear is the ultimate toxin for the soul, for the spirit, for who we truly are. When we're living in fear, fear is a contraction of energy. It's a contraction of awareness. And so that's how the government controls us, by fear, right? So this here is a permaculture landscape. 16 months ago, there was literally nothing here but a lawn. And now, I'm sorry, there wasn't even a lawn here. There was just sand here. And now, 16 months later, there's massive amounts of food. We actually have over 230 different types of edible and medicinal plants. You can literally walk around and eat your landscape. And the best part is there's no maintenance. The only thing we've done in the last 16 months to maintain this is we have trimmed this pathway and we have added compost tea once a month to the plants. That compost tea is a mixture of fertilizers that are natural, like worm castings and stuff from our literal compost, like chicken manure. And we've added that to the plants. Everything else is just on its own producing food.
Amazing. Now, I want to share with the listeners is after our last interview, I signed up with your team to start the process to get a food forest permaculture design for our little plot of land. Now, obviously, what you're showing us is a huge plot of land, but I just wanted to give everyone an update as to how we've been getting on. So I'm in the UK and Jim and his Food Forest Abundance, the link will be below. You've got teams that work all over the world. So we've been working with an amazing one of your designers called Filippo. He's fantastic. I cannot tell you how helpful he is. And we're well on the way to having our full-blown design. We've had a couple of meetings. We've been backwards and forwards and everything. And it's so excited. We're really there. Now, to a lot of people, when they look at what you've got, Jim, they're going to think, well, that's just not achievable to me. I've got a tiny plot of land. Talk people through who've got little gardens, little plots, or perhaps have got access to shared ones with friends and families. How important is that they start taking action?
Oh, I'll show you something right here. So this circle, do you see this circle right here?
Yeah.
That circle is about a 20-foot diameter circle. So let's call it 6 meters, right? Well, you're in the UK. You use the foot system too, don't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this one area, you could have 4 prairie trees. So you could have an apple and a peach and a plum and a pear tree. And then in the middle of this area, you could have all sorts of different types of herbs like basils and garlics and mints and all sorts. You could have 40 to 50 edible plants in this one little area that would produce, if you add a little tiny chicken coop, right? You could have a chicken coop at the other side with 2 chickens. Now you've got enough for 1 meal a day.
Yeah.
Just in this one area. That's how profound it is. And not only will you have a meal a day, but every one of these plants will produce more food that you could then sell or give away to your friends and family and your neighbors. And it's exponential.
And we have to start somewhere, don't we, Jim? I mean, I think a lot of people get very overwhelmed. And again, I completely get it because there's so much for people to worry about at the moment. But talk us through about how, when you step out of the sort of abstract thinking about understanding what the problems are to actually taking action yourself. I mean, this is how we really change the world, 1 tree at a time, isn't it?
It sure is. And it's so much fun. I am living in paradise and everybody has this option, whether even if you have, let's say you have a condo or an apartment or a townhome and you can't grow food in the lawn outside, then you could turn half of your living room. You could literally put raised beds in part of your living room. And if you have natural light from the sun, that's even better. But even if you don't, the cannabis industry has showing us how to grow food indoors very successfully.
Yeah.
Right. So anywhere it can be done, it's a matter of starting, and planting seeds is the first step.
Yeah, and it's so empowering. I mean, my husband and I are so excited about where we're at with our journey, and we've already got some really good, we've already started doing some bits, but I'll be documenting the process so everyone can watch it. And it's really lovely to learn about this because it feels not only are you doing something really constructive, but it's all about reconnecting. It's so much more powerful than, okay, in one respect, what can be better than growing your own food, but reconnecting to realize that we are part of nature. We're not separate from it. And that when we work with the land and we help the land out and let it do its thing, then the land gives back so abundantly to us.
It's infinite, right? You can count the seeds in an apple, but you cannot count the apples in a single seed. It's infinite. God's design, or nature, however you look at this incredible system, when we design our landscape to be productive, it is the most epic, life-changing investment I've ever made.
Yeah, 100% with you. So talk us through, I know we mentioned briefly last time, but I'd like to cover a little bit more about soil. And you've just stated everything that you're showing us here was sand not very long ago. So everyone who's watching this across the globe, you're all going to have different conditions, different climates, different soil conditions, different starting points. So part of what your team I know this for firsthand because we've been using it, is how people can really build back a healthy soil and making sure that they're reusing anything that we would consider as waste.
Yes, that's exactly right. So there's a lot of people out there that are really tight on budget. If you don't have a lot of money, you can go online on social media on some platform and you can type in, how do I propagate these types of seeds? How do I grow potatoes? How do I grow apples? Whatever it is that you want to grow, you can type it in and you can start doing it on your kitchen counter or in your backyard for really no money out of pocket, just a tiny bit of energy, right? Resourcefulness. Or if you want to speed up time, and time is of the essence right now, there's a lot going on in the world, then you can get a design. The design process speeds up time massively because somebody who's been in the business of growing food for their whole life and who's learned the process will actually design your landscape so that it will catch and store water, so that you will use the right plants in the right places. Some like a lot of sun, some like a lot of shade. Whoa! That was funny. I shouldn't have jumped. I normally don't jump, but I wasn't expecting a big spider to be crawling up my leg.
Oh,
And it was a,
oh.
yeah. But it was a happy spider and nothing happened. It was just a, so this is relevant. What's going on is we've been taught to fear nature. Our instant reaction to nature is that it's dangerous. Yet we don't fear cancer, diabetes, and heart disease until we have these ailments, right? So what I just learned for myself is I still got some work to do, right? There's no harm there, no worries there. It was a reaction that was programmed in me, right? We've been programmed to fear the things that are actually providing life for us. And we've been programmed to not fear the poisons in our food, right? This is the solution to all of it.
And it so is, because once you start really growing your own food, even if you're starting, as Jim said, inside your house to begin with, it's going to improve the air quality. It's going to improve your mental state massively. You know, all of your senses are going to be enhanced. Everything, you're going to feel a different level of connection and empowerment that you haven't before. So I really want to encourage people to just start doing something. And there's so many resources, as you said. If your budget is really, you know, you've got nothing, there's so many free resources out there. But if you want to speed it up, please reach out to Jim's team. There will be a link below, because honestly, we've had advice, Jim, already, and we haven't even got our final design yet, on water collection, about how to collect the water, about how to build our soil, about what preparation. We've already been doing quite a lot of the preparation work. So there's so much advice there, and it's just really, really motivating when you start seeing not only are we building a food forest for ourselves, but also a lovely herb garden, and ones that will feed the nature and the wildlife and our animals as well. Now, you've been doing some amazing work with prisons, haven't you? And I want to talk about the prison side of things, and also a call out to any school teachers out there as well.
Absolutely. So what we have here is the solution, which I've said, and I'll say it again because it's hard for people to conceptualize, to all of the world's biggest problems, using the same resources that we are currently using to enslave people. For instance, when we have gardening programs, permaculture programs in the prisons, when the inmates grow their own food, and guess what? They want to do this.
Yeah.
When they do that, it's been done. In California, they had a program years back where the inmates grew all of their own food, and the recidivism rate, which is the reincarceration rate, which means if a prisoner gets out of prison and commits another felony and goes back to prison, the rate of reincarceration went down by over 75%. So what does that mean? That means that by implementing these solutions in prisons across the world, we are going to literally reduce crime by more than 50%. And it's actually going to be quite a bit more than that. So that's a big deal. What would happen if our politicians, right? Poly is many and ticks are blood-sucking creatures. What would happen if these politicians started using good policy and actually started implementing these products? Well, or these solutions. Number one, by way of the inmates growing their own food, they're going to be eating healthier food. They're going to commit less crime, and the taxes are going to go down massively because we're no longer paying for the crime. Right? That's just one solution that must be implemented from the bottom up and from the top down. Here's another one: schools.
Yeah.
If all we did were implement permaculture programs at schools where the kids are now growing their own food at every school, then every school would be a permaculture demonstration site or a nursery for what's possible with natural design. And that one thing would end world hunger, and it would change the world.
So come on, there's so many school teachers out there. You can do it. You can start this, you know, be the change. Just imagine just inspiring all those young, enthusiastic people to take back control of their health. And you know, the figures that you say about the prisons, I just really want that to sink into people, because this shows how this is more than just taking back control of your food. it really hits you at a soul level. You know, if it can literally transform people that have had such difficult circumstances in their life at this level, that shows you just how many more parts of us it's reaching and how big an effect it's having. One of the things I've heard you talk about a lot recently as well, Jim, is the capturing the energy. I know you've been looking into different forms of energy, electroculture, and obviously, you know, this growing food, growing plants is really sort of getting nature's cycle back in balance. What can you tell us about your journey in that area?
Well, so 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago now, I was invited to speak about freedom at a science fair put on by Aaron Murakami. Aaron and some of the modern day Teslas are working together to bring Tesla's technology, which is basically just a way to understand the ether and how energy is everywhere, how to bring these systems to the market at scale. So we now are implementing some of these systems here at Galt's Landing, and they work. I've witnessed them. That's the amazing part is these systems, they do not break any of God's laws, right? They're just a way to use the natural energy systems that is infinitely productive. And I'll give you an example. You can take a solar evacuated tube and you can heat up water, and you can use the temperature differential between the water and the atmosphere to turn a gear. And that gear could be a flywheel. Then you could put a system on that flywheel where it becomes a generator. So if you buy a solar evacuated tube one time, that thing will last forever unless you break it. So then you could use that with the sun's energy to have infinite power. It's absolutely doable. It's provable. It's been done a bunch of times for over 100 years. It's now a matter of adopting these systems, which means that the old ways are going to be made obsolete. Well, that's why we need to start. We need to make the old systems that are unsustainable obsolete and start implementing the new systems. And one more thing about energy, everything around me is basically free energy. Every one of these plants will produce more and more energy, more life, more calories over time, even if we don't maintain them.
Yeah, I mean, quite often we're all learning that the less we humans interfere, the better. And this is what I love. I really want people to understand that when this isn't sort of your normal garden patch, you know, Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit vegetable patch, where it's so any of us that have done that before, and you know, the weeding, and we've been doing it all wrong. But the whole beauty of permaculture, Jim, isn't it, that once you've got the design right, and this is where the people that really know what they're doing come into their own, because they look at your soil, they look at your climate, you look at their shade, you look at what areas are going to thrive for different species. Then once you put in that initial work, a lot of it is pretty self-maintaining or very easy to maintain. And we want to be putting some energy into it because we want to be working in partnership with our land.
Exactly. We are the stewards. The narrative that is seen on the main news channels around the world, which are all controlled by BlackRock, by the way, that narrative is that humans are the problem and that we must depopulate and that humans are causing the destruction of our world. That's a half truth. The ultimate truth is that when we start using our resources wisely, we become the stewards. We become the enhancers of our natural systems and not the destroyers of our natural systems.
And there's such a drive for it. This is what I love. There is such a drive, and it's that little redirection, because so many people, particularly the younger generations, have been very brainwashed into certain ways of thinking. But the beauty thing is we're not talking about putting extra effort in. We're talking about redirecting into something that just has no downsides at all.
Yes, I am not a farmer and I don't grow any plants. Nature grows the plants. What I do is I design the earthworks and I put in the right plants in the right places, and then nature does everything else, right? We work on building soil. We add compost tea for a little while at the beginning, but see, these plants right here, these are called perennial peanut, right? they're not only edible, but they fix nitrogen into the soil. Other plants like comfrey and Mexican sunflower, they actually build biomass in the soil. So when you put a proper guild together, a guild is a community of plants that support each other. When you do that, then it's just like the Amazon rainforest. Unless you chop it down, it just gets better and better and better over time.
Yeah, amazing. So in terms of how we can get people to really enthuse people to take action today, whether it's on their own land, in their own little garden, or getting involved in a community project, what words of wisdom have you got to inspire people? Because we've really got to move the masses out of thinking about these things to doing.
Yeah. So in every logical way, there are two reasons not to take the poisons out and grow food instead of lawns. One is ignorance, the other one is evil. And a lot of people might take a breath at that statement, but I'll give you some examples from a financial perspective, which is what a lot of people are thinking about. If you buy a fruit tree at the nursery store, and it might be a smaller fruit tree, you might pay $80 for it. Within a year, with proper attention to soil, which is all on the upfront, in other words, it takes less maintenance than a lawn. Within a year, that fruit tree will double or quadruple in size. If you go to the same nursery store and buy the same fruit tree, but it's now 4 times as big, it's going to cost you 3 times as much money. Where else can you get a consistent return on your investment like that? And the other thing is that the world is being destroyed by the poisons and the poison producers. So we don't want to be part of that. So by demonstrating how easy and beautiful it is, I mean, I can walk out my house anytime right now, and I can walk in and get a basket full of healthy, nutrient-dense, poison-free food in 5 minutes. And for the rest of my life and for my great-great-grandkids will be able to walk into this food forest. And in fact, look at this, an armadillo.
Oh my gosh, that's so adorable.
It's a baby armadillo. Hi, armadillo. Hi, armadillo. So that's a food forest.
That's adorable.
Isn't that amazing? Now, I'm surprised that I'm getting this close. Hi, buddy. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
Gosh, that's made my night, Jim. That's absolutely made my night. I've got the foxes sitting out my door, but it's not an armadillo. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So this is not just a place for a lot of food, but it's an animal habitat. It's like Noah's Ark. It's the Garden of Eden. It's just profoundly beneficial on every level.
Yeah. So there's no reason not to, guys. It's just a case of sometimes stepping outside your comfort zone and do it for someone else. If you're a grandparent, be that example to your grandkids. If you're a parent, children, if there's any children, probably not going to be any children watching YouTube, but you never know, the odd one might be listening in to their parents. If you start, however small, I mean, I've got loads, it's been quite cold here, so I've got loads of my herbs growing in there, and then when it's nice enough, I put them outside. Start doing something. Perhaps go and speak to your schools or even churches, or what about old people's homes? I mean, there's been so many studies that show, for example, if they introduce pets into old people's homes, how much people's mental health, physical health improves. There could be some stuff that people could do in old people's homes as well. The opportunities are endless.
They're endless. So we are affecting the presidential campaign in the United States. There are candidates that are already using our messages that we've been sharing with them now for months, and they're starting to bring and integrate our messages into their campaign strategies. I am not for politics, but I am for policy. And can you imagine if a candidate for any high office starts layering out exactly how they are going to use our resources to reform prisons, to reform crime, to reform schools, to take the common areas of parks, city parks, and turn every city park into a food forest. Everybody in the world who's got any wits and any ethics is going to back that candidate.
Oh, completely. Absolutely, completely. And if there's anyone watching for the UK politicians, please take note. We've got so many spaces in the UK we could use for this. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, Jim, is chemicals. The nasty pesticides and herbicides that are a cause of so many diseases, not only across humans, the whole animal kingdom, the whole plant kingdom, and of course, completely destroying our soil and waterways. So your permaculture systems are really doing a lot to clean that up as well. How do you control pests and things like that?
So we love the diversity of nature. I was walking in the food forest. It was a while back, and there was we have a perennial spinaches, right? So there's spinaches you plant once, and they just get better and better and better every year. And we noticed a moth or a butterfly, I think it was a moth, had laid some eggs, and the larva, the caterpillars, ate one of the spinaches down to the bone. Yeah. And then the next day I went and observed, and the next plant was about a third eaten. And I noticed that there was some wasps around. And then I came back day 3 and 4, and by day 3 and 4, the spiders and the wasps and the geckos had completely balanced out the system, and there were no more caterpillars eating. So we love the diversity of nature. We love those creatures. They're absolutely the protectors of our garden.
Absolutely perfect answer. It's funny, just before I came on, Jim, we've managed to grow the most ridiculous amount of cafe nero or black kale. I mean, you should see the plants. Our soil just must love them. But I went to pick some for the guinea pigs and rabbits just before we came on, and there's loads, because we've seen loads of butterflies, and now we've got all the little caterpillars growing everywhere. So I'll go and have a word with the bees and wasps and say, you might need to balance this out a bit.
There you go. Yep, the wasps, especially the wasps and the spiders. And by the way, everybody listening, start a beehive. I don't know anything about bees. I've never had beehives. Well, I hired a guy, and he dropped off 2 boxes full of bees about 9 months ago. We've already got 30 pounds of incredibly delicious honey in 9 months. And we don't do anything except for we harvested twice. And it's so much fun, and it's so productive.
Yeah, my neighbour who comes and rides my horse once a week, she's an expert on bees. So I'm actually going to have a word with her on that. I mean, she's been keeping bees for years, and she really is an expert on it. So that's such good advice. And this is again, it's so great to use all these different expertise within your communities, because you find so many people, like my expertise is what herbs to grow for animals to self-medicate on. And then my neighbour is an expert on bees. And then one of my other neighbours has got a lovely little pond, and she found a huge grass snake in there, which was beautiful. And as you say, this diversity, you can all plug together and hopefully grow different things to share about. So your enthusiasm is pretty contagious. Just tell us what you're doing there at Galt Sanded, because you're inviting visitors along there as well to learn, aren't you?
Yes. If anybody wants to come from across the pond, we've had people come from all over the world already. And believe it or not, this is a baby food forest, right? This just keeps getting exponentially better. So what we are using this for is to demonstrate, educate, inspire, and empower. So we invite everybody. We've got Airbnbs. We're building a school here. We're building a healing hive here. And we're building a bunch more rentals here for short-term rentals. Our intention is to bring people here. And so far, with hundreds and hundreds of visitors, probably approaching 1,000, 100% of visitors have left inspired and feeling awesome. And a couple magical divine things. There's a book called Atlas Shrugged. Right? It was the 20th, it is the 20th best-selling book in the history of the world. It's Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And the book is about what happens in a world when politicians go crazy and start making laws to enslave the people and steal the people's money. So it's very relevant. Well, our community is called Galt's Landing, after the main character in the book Atlas Shrugged, John Galt. Well, just the other day, the producer of the movie Atlas Shrugged reached out to his friend who's living on the property and says, we'd like you to use this title. We'd like to work with you and create another Atlas Shrugged movie. So now we have Galt's Landing, and now we're going to work with the title Atlas Shrugged, New Energy World. And here's the kicker. It's about John Galt created free energy systems. So we're going to be demonstrating what John Galt was all about in the book Atlas Shrugged here at Galt's Landing. So we've got Galt's Landing, Atlas Shrugged, and the free energy systems. And we've got all of these incredible social media people, generals and colonels, and very famous people from all around the world coming in to shine their spotlight on this. Our intention is to catalyze a shift that results in mass adoption of this. And then we change the world.
We do. So look, everyone, if you're watching this, there's so many ideas for how you can get involved. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. All the details about how to connect in with Jim and his team will be below. Do you send out regular newsletters, Jim?
Yep, we send out newsletters weekly. We have lots of different things going on. TV shows. We're going to be on Discovery Channel in about 40 days. We've got the documentary, we've got the movie going, songs and poets and artists of all kinds are joining energies and powers, and we're coming together because Victor Hugo said it best. There's one thing stronger than all of the armies of the world, and that is an idea whose time has come. Consciousness, enlightenment, the Garden of Eden is the idea whose time has come.
Oh, I just love that. Thank you so much for all you're doing. I will send you some pictures and a copy of my design once it's done. I'm going to be showing everyone. Don't worry, you will be coming along the journey of our garden with us. And trust us, if we can do it, anyone can do it. So thank you so much, Jim, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and most importantly, your enthusiasm. I hope this has inspired anyone that's watching. If it is, please reach out to Jim's team in whatever way you're drawn to. Share this far and wide. Any final words to leave anyone with?
I just want to say you are amazing, Catherine. Thank you so much. And we are standing by to serve.
Peace out. Thank you so much. Go give that armadillo a kiss. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. My goal is to inspire as many people as I can to live their best lives, to stay curious and to raise their consciousness and that of the collective. So to do this, I need to reach as many people as possible, and this needs your help. If you feel drawn, would you be willing to share your favourite episode with 5 different people? This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. If you feel drawn to do that, I will be very, very grateful. All the links and discount codes where applicable for all the products that I support are on my 2 websites, catherineedwards.life and catherineedwardsacademy.com. All of the products are personally tried and tested by me, my family, and my clients. And finally, please do press the follow or subscribe button, depending which platform you're listening on. And above all, stay curious and stay free.